Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lincoln Project Town Hall. My name is Maya May. I am here with Reed Galen. We are going to be doing these weekly through the midterms. Incredibly important. We're going to be spotlighting states that are key to saving our democracy. Each week, it's going to be a specific state. So this week, we're talking about Nevada. I like to say Nevada personally. Reed over here apparently keeps telling me
that is incorrect.
We're going to battle this out. It's going to be.
There are now people throwing their phones across the room because of what you just said.
Well, good. That means they're engaged. So I'm glad you're throwing you're awake now. So you're paying attention. And I'm probably going to say Nevada a couple more times just to make sure that you are paying attention. So we are going to be talking about the critical races in Nevada, the candidates, and more importantly, we're going to talk with one of our union partners. If you're not familiar with the union, it's our pro-democracy coalition of organizations. They're looking for volunteers, always volunteers like you, because democracy is a participation sport. You cannot just sit on the sidelines, not anymore.
May I just say, Maya, to interrupt, it's not just a sport, it's a lifestyle. Democracy is a lifestyle.
Democracy is a lifestyle 24/7. It doesn't work if we don't. I keep saying, I need the energy. Democracy gives you wings. It's not Red Bull anymore. It's democracy. So if we're all working together, I know we're exhausted, but we got to put the pep in our step for these last few weeks heading into the midterm. So I'm glad you all are with me. Reed, is there anything that you want to say? As you all know, Reed is a co-founder of the Lincoln Project. And I don't know if you have anything you want to say before we bring in our...
No, I'm excited. Listen, I was able, as we'll talk to our guest, I was able to get out to Nevada a little earlier this year and see a whole bunch of folks. And it was great to see how much incredible work is going on the ground there by activists who often don't get nearly enough credit for the work they do and always need more resources than they have, but somehow figure out how to get the job done. So I'm excited to talk about the Silver State.
So am I. So with that, let's bring in Laura Martin. Hello, Laura. Welcome.
Hi, Laura.
Hey.
So we were just talking with Laura right before this show. She is the executive director for Plan Action. She's been organizing and coalition building for nearly 2 decades, which is really, really important right now because it's only a coalition that is going to get us through this. She joined Plan in 2011 and worked her way up through the organization, being executive director. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization, Laura, and what you're doing on the ground in Nevada?
Sure. Thank you all for having me on the live stream, and thank you to the Lincoln Project for everything that you all have been doing for the past, I don't even know how many years, but thank you all. Plan was founded by Nevada activists. We saw the need to build coalition with like-minded groups on the left, from labor unions, immigrants, LGBT groups, civil rights groups, because we know that in Nevada and in many states, regardless if the legislature is red or blue, what we call Nevada Inc., they always win. And so we fight for community investments and policy changes that actually improve people's lives. And so we're able to work on policy, on movement building, base building. And of course, now what we're really busy doing is electoral organizing. And so it's always an exciting time when elections are happening. We like to say the road to the White House goes down Las Vegas Boulevard. So things are really exciting in Las Vegas and Nevada as always, and we're always open to volunteers coming through and helping us knock some doors.
I absolutely love to hear that, because a lot of times people think Las Vegas is just about partying, but it is absolutely a state where people are active and politically involved. And I love that you're coalition building. Again, that's what we are all about right now. And so we hope to learn a lot from you this evening on how that is done. Before we go too deep into this, though, let's talk about Nevada really quickly, this LP strategy and understanding how we score the races. Reed, can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Yeah, sure, Maya. Thanks. And Laura, thank you not only for joining us tonight, but for what your organization and colleagues and all the activists in Nevada are doing this fall. So we took a little bit different look at how the states fall out this fall here, which was, in Washington, D.C., there's a House committee there's a Senate committee, there's a governor's committee. There, both Republicans and Democrats have all of the different organizations responsible for a given set of races, and they really focus on those. As the Lincoln Project is first and foremost a pro-democracy organization, we said, which are the races that are fundamental to protecting American democracy in 2022 and beyond? Not only electorally, but now we're seeing really from a just basic civil liberties, individual rights and freedom perspective too. And so from what the races we're focused on, and the states I should say we're focused on, are Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, because those are states that have key races: governor, secretary of state, attorneys general, and sometimes in some places, but also are going to have a significant effect on what happens in 2024. As we have so many election deniers. Nevada is not spared that on the Republican side of the aisle, that we just cannot afford to have these people with their bad ideas, their backward-looking vision for the country, and their willingness to steal elections, I should say, from voters, have any chance of getting to power. And so that's why we're doing stuff like working with Laura and other activists in Nevada to make sure that Governor Sisolak and on down the ballot, including Senator Cortez Masto as well, are able to retain their seats and ensure that we can keep those election deniers out of office.
Absolutely. So with that, we have a question from the audience that's for you, Laura. So Bruce would like to know, with just a handful of weeks left, what will we see in Nevada? What should we be optimistic about? Thank you, Bruce. That's the way I like to put it. And what should we watch out for?
Yeah, Bruce, that is a great question. I think one thing we should be optimistic about is when it comes to the organizing side, Nevada has a really deep bench. We have very skilled organizers all across this state who are leading really culturally competent and deep campaigns, knocking doors, doing voter contact. We have a little organization you may have heard of called the Culinary Union, who's knocking thousands of doors every day. Their members are out there having really bold conversations and getting people excited about the election. Our canvassers, when they report back what they're hearing on the doors, people feel like the last couple of years through the pandemic, through the Trump years, it's felt like things were a little bit out of control, but people are excited to vote because that is the one thing that they can control. They're excited to engage. There's a town hall tonight for someone running for mayor. People want to engage in these conversations. And I think the pandemic has really pushed people to be more inquisitive about what these candidates will actually do, what is in their power. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And what we need to watch out for is Trump's election denier in chief, Adam Laxalt. He's running for U.S. Senate. Jim Marchant was a fake electorate. He's a QAnon quack. He's best friends with Mike Lindell. He's running for Secretary of State. And so, yes, people are struggling in this economy, struggling to pay rent, struggling to pay for gas. But grievance and resentment could lead us down a path where these people can get elected. And then we are going to start all the way back to square one. All of the progress that President Biden, Governor Sisolak has made could easily be reversed if one of these big lie cheaters gets into office here in Nevada.
And Maya, may I just jump in here? I mean, Adam Laxalt's the kind of guy, right? He's a 3-time loser. He just goes election shopping every 2 or 4 years. Trading on the name of his now long deceased grandfather, who was a paragon of Nevada politics for many years, but many years ago, when the Republican Party was still a center-right, I want to say conservative party, but Senator Laxalt back then was I think one of the good guys at the time. But Laxalt's the kind of guy, Maya, who went down to Texas, stood in the back of a tractor trailer in front of the bodies of 53 dead asylum seekers with this really weird grin on his face, right? And this is the kind of guy that shouldn't be within 1,000 miles of any elected position. And so what's funny is that, for a guy like Laxalt, he wants to be ultra MAGA, but what he doesn't want you to know, Maya and Laura, is that it's actually Mitch McConnell's gang of thieves running his campaign, right? So he's trying to play both sides of the aisle here. He flies in Trump, he flies in DeSantis. He's trying to be all things to all people, but the truth is that this is a bad guy, a guy who has never shown anything other than incredible selfishness when it comes to trying to attain power. And if there's one person who should not grace, well, let me just say this. There's a whole bunch of people running for Senate as Republicans that shouldn't be in the United States Senate, and Laxalt is certainly at the top of that list.
And Laura, are you seeing that on the ground, that people are having those same thoughts, that these politicians, these election deniers are sort of playing with their lives? Is there any kind of pushback?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Reed gave us that education on Adam Laxalt. I think one thing that I like to add is, his past elections, his own family has come out and told Nevadans to vote for his opponent. So, I mean, if his own family says he's not good enough to be an elected official, I think we should start listening to them.
Now, Laura, is that the family in Nevada or New Mexico?
In Nevada.
Okay, just want to make sure the people on the stream know what I'm talking about. They'll understand.
Well, you can't get much more pushback when it's pushback from your own family. Like, that says a lot when the family comes out and says, not this guy. They know the stuff that even we don't know. So that is good. That is a unendorsement right there. But and Nevada is incredibly important. A lot of, we know it as a swing state, obviously, but we need to talk about the races, which ones we should be watching, and why, in particular, for 2022 and then the impact on 2024, it is so important. Reed, can you just go over really quickly why we need to have this focus, this laser focus?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think as Laura, I think ably mentioned, a guy like Jim Marchant is Secretary of State. He was a fake elector. I mean, this is the guy, as Laura noted, he's best friends with Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, right? I cannot imagine what their Saturday nights out on the Strip must be like, but I don't think they're probably safe for work. So I would say that these are people. Marchant is, again, a guy that belongs anywhere near a position of authority. Again, Governor Sisolak, the Lieutenant Governor, the Attorney General, on down the line. They have, I think, a great lineup for Democrats here. Laura, I'd love to hear what you think too. But on the 2024 stage, it's one of those things where Nevada is a swing state, and the last thing you want is someone like Joe Lombardo and Jim Marchant being in charge, and potentially a Republican Attorney General being in charge of how they're going to count electors, what kind of pressure they would put on the legislature in Carson City, because they came super close last time, right? A lot of guys wouldn't jump off the cliff last time, but I'm afraid a lot more of them would. And so, from our perspective, that's why securing Nevada for not only this year but for 24 is so important. But I'm sure Laura has specific examples of what's going on in the state about why we need to make sure that take it across.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Governor Sisolak is a must protect. And I know he will probably be in Las Vegas as our Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA champions, are going to have their parade here in Las Vegas tomorrow. But definitely protect Governor Sisolak. Our Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, our Treasurer Zach Conine is running against somebody who's under an FBI investigation for stealing funds. We can't let them be in charge of our state's money. And, what our team likes to call the election defenders, our Attorney General Aaron Ford, and then our Secretary of State seat is open because they are termed out. And there's a great person named Cisco Aguilar who's running. And I know all of those seats are important, but really our Attorney General, our Secretary of State, the people who administer and oversee the elections, and the person who defends us from overreach. We are really lucky that we have a good Attorney General, Aaron Ford, that has pushed back against Adam Laxalt's many efforts to sue in 2020. And I believe he lost every single legal complaint he put forward. We're lucky that Barbara Sagafsky, while she was the only Republican statewide elected official in Nevada, she stood her ground and followed the Constitution, not President Trump's complaints and conspiracy theories. She followed the Constitution. She followed the will of the people. When our legislature heard the call of people during the pandemic that we needed to have universal vote by mail, because people didn't want to, be around people voting in 2020, she didn't stand in the way, even though she didn't personally support it. And we need more politicians like her, like Cisco Aguilar, who is in it for the people and not for their own conspiracy theories like Jim Marchant is.
Laura, I'd love to get your opinion on There's Clark County, obviously Las Vegas. There's Elko up in the northeast corner. There's Washoe, which is Reno. How do you guys see the different counties throughout the state?
Yeah, I mean, Clark County is definitely blue. Our full Clark County Commission is all Democrats. Most of our population is here, and so it's a key county to win. Washoe is more swing, but turning blue. And then Plan and other organizations also include a lot of precincts in rural counties that have indigenous tribes. Tribes are doing a great job organizing themselves and getting really engaged in the electoral process. In the 2021 legislative session, they won a lot of great pieces of legislation. Free college for enrolled tribal students, access to the ballot collection, in language. So there's one, I believe it's Nye County, will have some ballots printed in the Shoshone language. And so I think we can't underestimate the power of the indigenous vote. And we saw that in Arizona when they elected Captain Mark Kelly, and also maybe some other people weren't that great like Kristen Sinema, but I think people underestimate or overlook the Native vote at their own peril. These folks are engaged and they really have skin in the game because they're out in these rural counties that tend to be red. And so often they're kind of just trapped in an economy that they have no say in. It's not really democracy because it's super conservative people winning elections over and over again and really just doing super conservative things that aren't really meeting the needs of people who are worried about water and clean air, and diversifying the economy. So I think in those counties like Elko, like Humboldt County, Mineral County, Lovelock, those are places to watch to see how Native voters continue to organize their folks and turn out in the election.
Yeah, more than anything, it seems like they have this deep understanding that elections have consequences, which a lot of America is now seeing as well. But what I love hearing is it sounds like in Nevada, the government has always been responsive to the needs of the people. And so it's a true democracy in that sense. And now we have all of these Republican election deniers who are coming in and trying to just enforce in their will on the will of the people. And so I love hearing that the people are pushing back. I do want to talk about voter registration. Are you seeing more people registering to vote? What is the landscape looking like there?
Yeah, tomorrow is actually National Voter Registration Day. It's a commemoration that President Obama actually started 10 years ago. So it's the 10-year anniversary, and it's always a big deal here in Nevada. I hear the Raiders are going to get involved. I am a Colorado girl, so I will not be going to that event. But everybody gets really excited.
Don't wear your Broncos jersey. Do not.
I will.
Yeah, loyalty is loyalty, I guess.
And so, yes, voter registration is key. There's groups like, Make the Road Nevada for Our Future who are out registering voters, the Culinary Union. We have Silver State Voices who does nonpartisan voter reg, and they'll be registering tens of thousands of voters. But I also want to say, we've been working over the past 10 years to remove some of the barriers that exist to registering to vote. Plan was really proud to help lead an effort to allow automatic restoration of rights. So as long as you aren't physically incarcerated in prison, once you're out, even if you're still on parole, you can vote. If you're not in an institution, you can still vote. We've passed same-day voter registration, automatic voter registration. And so a lot of these policies that have kind of like eased up on the need to do these big voter registration canvases, but they're still being done. And so it will be interesting to see once we get used to people being automatically registered, or you can vote on this, you can register the same day you go vote, as long as you prove your residency and other things. We'll see how the need to get the voter registration applications beforehand in. But tomorrow's going to be a huge day. There's a lot of events everywhere. We're even going to be at the Las Vegas Aces Parade registering people to vote. Like I said, the Raiders will be out in the community doing something, and it's just going to be an exciting day because people know it's time to get engaged. And one thing I wanted to add too about what you were saying, Maya, about people recognizing some of these conspiracy theorists. Another thing that Nevada voters recognize that we're hearing is who helped during the pandemic. Voters remember who was organizing food banks, who was doing town halls to explain how to get your unemployment benefits, who was setting up vaccine clinics, who was setting up rides. They remember, and they remember who wasn't doing anything but, crying about Trump losing the election. People do remember that, and I think that's also going to play a role in how people vote this year.
Well, and I think just, Laura, what you just mentioned, what Maya just mentioned too, I think is really important, which is, if you ask the average Republican candidate, certainly in Nevada, but elsewhere too, like, why do they want to be in power? It's sort of, freedom, the Second Amendment, whatever, right? But there's no plan. And ultimately, this is all about governance, right? Governing on behalf of the people you are supposed to represent, right? This is a public trust. So give us a little bit more sense of what you're seeing out of the Republicans as far as their messaging is concerned, because I assume a lot of it is probably aimed at Latino voters, Hispanic voters, and a lot of it is also probably aimed at scaring the heck out of voters in Nevada too.
Yeah, and I think they're not really good at articulating their vision for governing other than saying we'll do the opposite of whoever's in power now. And that's just not good enough, right? Because yes, the economy has been great for some people. The rising tide has lifted all the big boats, but it has drowned some people out who are at the margins. But I don't think anyone believes that the Republican Party, the people who are funded by those big ships, by the oil company, by gambling companies, by mining companies, that they then are going to come in and say, oh, we'll help you. I think people see right through that. And that kind of has been their plan to govern, to say, oh, I'll help you because no one else has. And I don't think anyone's buying that. And I think especially with abortion, the women's movement here in Nevada had the foresight in the 90s to codify Roe versus Wade in statute. So regardless of who the president is or who sits on the Supreme Court, people in Nevada who can get pregnant are protected. And it's that kind of governance that people want to see of, we are a state that is pretty libertarian. We're not necessarily a blue state. We're more purple. We're also a very transient state. And so people want to know that their elected officials have their back. They have the juice to get things done. They have the connections to know where the problems are and how to get to the root cause of it. And a carpetbagger like Adam Laxalt isn't that person. A sheriff in Las Vegas will never be that person. And so I think people see right through that. And for the people who don't, who may be still on the wall, those are the people that we're reaching out to. We're reaching out to nonpartisans. We're reaching out to those people who don't really vote in every single election. And, we want to talk to them about really what's at stake in this election and remind people we aren't voting for a best friend. We're not picking a best friend. We're picking the person that we can trust to protect us and to have our backs. And I think when you put an Adam Laxalt against a Catherine Cortez Masto, the decision is pretty easy.
I'm glad that you touched on, Reed. You mentioned the Hispanic population. We actually have an audience question for you, Laura, from Clyde. He asks, I have been reading Democratic candidates aren't doing well with Hispanic diaspora population in Nevada. What is your plan to help in the outreach?
Sure. Thank you, Clyde, for that question. I will say, one, I'm not a member of the Hispanic diaspora, so I don't want to appear that I am speaking on anyone's behalf, but I do want to say, just from my conversations with folks from that community and just from the organizing that we do, I think people have been a little frustrated at some of the reporting, like from the Wall Street Journal and other national outlets comparing, Adam Laxalt having a mariachi to actual organizing in the Hispanic or Latino community. This is where Harry Reid is so important. Harry Reid had the vision of not just winning his election, but laying the groundwork so people could continue to win year after year after year. He invests in leadership of young Latino college students and Asian and Black students. And those are a lot of the people that you see now working in the White House, running campaigns in Nevada. And so he laid a lot of that groundwork and leadership to do that. And I think that is what the Hispanic community responds to. Not that you hired the right mariachi or you picked a really great restaurant to have a free event at, that you've been here year round and long term, actually talking about things that matter to these communities. Yes, Hispanic people care about their small businesses and healthcare, but will they want to hear what Adam Laxalt has to say about, small businesses and healthcare as he's standing in front of a bunch of corpses with a weird grin on his face? I think that while immigration may not be the number one issue for everyone anymore, I think it's hard for people to take you seriously if they know that your immigration policy is just terrible and rude. And I think while they what's the saying, people to own the libs, sending people to Martha's Vineyard to own the libs. It's great for Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Carlson is not a Nevada voter. People are shocked and appalled because there are infants on those buses and planes, and those people were lied to. That is what's turning people off. That is what matters to Hispanic and Spanish-speaking voters, is how you actually care about this community as human beings.
Yeah, families matter, and so watching the way the GOP is just kind of cavalierly messing with families and family units is really heartbreaking, and definitely feels like it is going to backfire. I actually have a question for you, Reed, because it's Laura. You brought up the fact that they had the foresight to make sure to codify abortion rights in Nevada. And so is that something that Lindsey, and this question for you, Reed, with Lindsey Graham's little attempt to put out a national abortion ban, is that something that might affect Nevadans?
I think that, first we should not, I don't know why Lindsey Graham did that. Just if I was just observing that as opposed to being a partisan like I am, it wouldn't make any sense to me. Clearly, Mitch McConnell didn't think it made any sense because he said that's not something we're going to do because he stepped into a bear trap, and Democratic leaders and candidates rightfully are happily watching him chew his own leg off to try and get out of it, which is as soon as he brought that up, the words national abortion ban came out, right? That's the only thing it was ever going to be looked at as. I think that they were trying to find some way of saying, well, 15 weeks is the same as Europe. So now Republicans are in league with Europe. Got it. Okay. Right. We want to do what the French do. Not exactly a great talking point for Republicans generally. And Maya, he's also upsetting his own sort of ultra MAGA voters, or the ultra MAGA voters who now believe no abortion for any reason, anytime, no matter the circumstance. And so it doesn't make any sense to me. I think it was sort of a Hail Mary. But we've also seen that there are candidates, Republican candidates, and Laura, you could speak to this too, across the country, and maybe some in Nevada, who are furiously scrubbing their websites of the most extreme abortion content because they know that that's, it's a lead balloon for them, and rightfully so. And so now they've gotten themselves caught in the vice that, frankly, Republicans were very good at putting Democrats in for a long time, which is, if they try and moderate, they upset their base voters. And if they try and double down, they upset normal people. And I think Lindsey has only contributed to that here with, 7 weeks to go.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if Senator Graham thought he was giving an alley-oop to some of these candidates who did have extreme positions in the primary, because at least here in Nevada, they all immediately came out saying, oh, I do not support that. Or, I don't support a nationwide ban. But yeah, they will do whatever the head of the party at the time tells them to do. And so I think abortion is going to be an important issue. Again, we're more of a libertarian state. Our support for abortion in Nevada has been steady in the mid to upper 60s for a while. And it's because we want the freedom, the actual freedom to decide what we want to do with our bodies and with our lives. And it's also an economic issue. And so, this is going to continue to be an issue that's going to be hung around their necks. And I hope it emboldens the Democratic Party, especially, which, we're not affiliated with the Democratic Party, but we tend to match a lot of a lot of things we believe in, to be bold about what we believe in. I think the Democratic Party tends to get frustrated with activists, with some campaign slogans or some, policies that they deem too far left. But a lot of times those policies come in a vacuum and a lack of leadership from the party and from our elected officials. And so it's these people on the margins that are driving up the policy. And sometimes it's not where people feel like the community is at. But yes, the community is ready to say that we want to protect our abortion rights. We want to protect marriage. We want to protect, ironically, with, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, miscegenation, like, people of opposite race should still be allowed to be married in this country.
That was the one thing he left out of his opinion.
I know, that's so ironic. But yeah, I mean, I just think the Republicans are just throwing everything at the wall. And it's like, this is the party who screams 1776, but is mourning the loss of the queen and the monarchy. Nothing ever makes sense. And I think we just have to be true to what we believe in, and not leave people out and not play. And one thing that I get so frustrated with sometimes with our own electeds is they worry about, well, someone can run a mailer against me. Someone can run an ad against me if I come out. It's like, that shouldn't be the thought. You should be able to analyze, how are we getting the root cause of something? What can I do in my power? Or how can I show leadership to show people the best way to move forward? And I think that's how we win these votes.
Well, and Laura, as someone who sent lots of those mailers, they're going to send them anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Right.
And
they're going to run the ads. They're going to drop the mail.
They're going to call you a socialist anyway.
Right. They might even make things up because they do a ton of that.
What, Maya? Now, Maya. No one would make anything up.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, but it is refreshing to hear the insight that it's like, no, you just do you. Like, that's what do you pay attention to what the people need, be responsive, and the people will respond as well. So that is good to hear. We have some more audience questions. So I want to pull one of these up. Sydney, and I'll give this one to you, Laura. How can we get the message out to Northern Nevada? Need to see the Dem candidate for Secretary of State up here. So,
yeah, I mean, hopefully Cisco is watching and can receive your message. I know for us at Plan Action, we do have rural counties outside of Washoe and Clark that are in our voter contact universe. We will be at Winnemucca Pride, which is in Humboldt County. It's the county that's kind of touches Oregon, Idaho, but in Nevada. So very rural border area. We're going to be talking to people about how important races like the Secretary of State race are. And so Sydney, I would really try to connect with organizations like Plan for a Future, Make the Road Nevada, Native Voters Alliance, who do have programs that are touching some of these rural counties. And we don't necessarily have to depend on the candidates. We know they're doing their thing. But on our side of the wall, you can help us contact voters every single day through text message, phone calls, and when we go to Winnemucca. And we'll be going to Mesquite, Nevada, which is another rural area. We'll be knocking on those voters' doors.
I've driven through Mesquite, Nevada more times than I can count. So, but also I would say this, Sydney, call Cisco's campaign and say, come to Northern Nevada. We need you up here. Because here's the one thing we know with like a guy like Jim Marchant, and Laura's got to live through it every day. Their insanity drives media coverage, and that media coverage drives name ID. And while name ID can be a bad thing, theoretically, if it's in a vacuum where they only hear one person's name, right? When they only hear one candidate's name, when they only see one candidate, that can have an effect. It will have an effect on election day because folks who are undecided, maybe independent, soft Republicans, might vote for the Republican because they say, well, at least I've heard of that guy. And I hate to say, guys, that sometimes it's so simple and sort of knee-jerk a reaction in the voting booth as it is. But if folks are a lot more likely to vote for somebody they've heard of, unless they're straight votes. For those swing voters we need to make sure that Cisco and everybody else gets out to those places we need people to see them.
Yeah, and I actually heard a comment from Beto on a podcast. I'm not quite sure which one it was, but he mentioned one of his biggest regrets of his campaign that he lost was not getting out and to different people and meeting different people and having those boots on the ground. And so, yes, nothing beats that face-to-face. So if you can, if we could do that, I agree. We need him up there. So
yeah, and Nevadans love that. I mean, I've gone to Costco and run into my congressman. I've gone to random non-political events and I can see the mayor. People love that retail politics in Nevada. And so it is important to have that face time. And why I'm also hopeful the DNC will make us first in the nation.
Because as one of your longtime reporters there, John Ralston says, Laura, you matter.
We do matter.
do matter. All right. Joan's question matters. Joan asks, how can Nevada fake electors be held accountable for their actions? And how can we ensure this doesn't happen again? Reed, I'm going to toss this one to you.
Well, the first thing is understanding what the state laws are that they might have violated. The second thing is what federal laws they may have violated. And if there are any attorneys there that were those fake electors, I know that there is a project, I think it's called Project 45 or Project 65, that is specifically going after the attorneys involved with those kind of things to make sure that they're held accountable, either legally or by their local bar associations. How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Well, make sure that your attorney general is reelected. Make sure your governor and lieutenant governor are reelected, and make sure that Cisco is elected Secretary of State, so you don't have to worry about these things. It's one of those things, guys. I don't want to get too sort of philosophical on you here, but remember that democracy only works because we all believe in the rules. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe in the rules, then you can theoretically do whatever you want. Well, that's what we saw with these fake electors. And so what we need to do is make sure that there are people who are faithful not only to the Nevada Constitution, but to the United States Constitution, that they are going to do the job, whether they like it or not, right? Nevada could go for a Republican in 2024. We don't know. But they are going to uphold their oaths and uphold what makes democracy work, which is we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Laura, did you want to jump in on that question as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Reed said everything that needed to be said. And one thing that we're looking forward to is the January 6th committee. I mean, I know that a lot of Trump supporters have been dunking on Liz Cheney, but you all just freed up a lot of her time. And so she has a lot of time to figure out what to do about the electors and Trump and everybody who thought they could get away with this. And so I'm excited to see what she comes up with in these last few months of the year.
Well, I will say that, yeah, I mean, September 28th, everyone, mark it in your calendars, appointment television. I don't know if it'll be, I assume because it might be the last one, it'll probably be prime time. But I would say that the committee, starting with Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney as chair and vice chair, have done a masterful job of orchestrating and illustrating for the American people what Donald Trump was up to, the conspiracy. And it was a conspiracy. Look, you don't need to be smart to be a conspiracy. You can have a whole bunch of morons and bad people like we saw at the end of 2020 and beginning of 2021 to hold power. And so I think it's important. I think it will drive Trump crazy again. And a crazy Trump out there like we saw him this weekend, I think scares the hell out of otherwise normal Republicans. That there's some of the people in my family who are older Republicans want nothing more to do with him, want him to go away. And the more that he shows up, I think the more dampening an effect it has on those soft Republican voters that I think Laura and her team and her colleagues can go out and vacuum up for Democratic candidates this year.
Yeah, absolutely. More off ramps, please. We need to peel off as many of those Republican voters as possible. And I'm glad that you reminded everyone, Laura, of the January 6th committee, because there is so much going on right now that it is hard to keep track. So incredibly important reminder for everyone. We have one more question from Sam, who asks, which of these races are the closest? And I know a lot of them are very close, unfortunately. Who of the Dem candidates needs the most help? Laura, I'll let you take that one.
That's going to be hard because if it's almost like asking someone to pick their favorite child, someone's going to have their feelings hurt. I have a problem. I have a problem with polls because I think they're just a snapshot in time. And the question doesn't really get to the heart of how people feel. Like if people are upset with the economy and how that's going, that doesn't necessarily mean they're upset with Sisolak or Biden. They could be upset that the corporations took advantage of PPP loans and things like that. So, I mean, I think I just treat it as, I just think of all the people that I want to win. I always just act as though they're losing. I just stay in silent panic mode until election day. But I will lift up again our election defenders, Aaron Ford for Attorney General, Cisco Aguilar for Secretary of State. Regardless, we want Sisolak to win, but those are the offices that are going to be the backstop against another corrupt presidency, any corruption in the legislature or fake electorates again in 2024. Those offices are probably the most important, but we want everybody to vote in every election. We have, a really cheeky event coming up called Go Down on Your Ballot to make sure you vote in every single race. Do not skip. Investigate the candidates if you don't know. This is Las Vegas, so yes, that's what we're calling it.
I was like, absolutely love it.
Yes. There's ballot.
I hope you put your kids to bed, folks.
Yes. So don't skip any race. Every race is critical, but really think about our democracy defenders and who will be the backstop against the possibility of another Trump getting into office.
Well, and let me just piggyback on something there that you just said, which is, let's never ever make the mistake of 2015, 2016. He's too crazy. He could never win. Mm-hmm. His approval ratings are in the tank. He's never going to win. He can't get anything done. All of that, guys, that world is over, mm-hmm. right? Crazy can win. Let's make sure it doesn't, but let's not be surprised that it can, right? Take your imagination and let it fly free, right? Do not let a lack of imagination this fall or in the next 2 years or however many years be the impediment to you doing all you can. But Laura, also talk to the folks, because I bet we have a lot of Nevadans on here. Remind them how voting in Nevada works.
Sure. So early voting in Nevada starts in, I think, about 30 days. And in Nevada, if you do not come out on top during the early vote period, which is about a 2-week period, including weekends, you probably aren't going to win the race. You're not going to have enough election day votes. Typically I think the numbers are between 60 to 80% of Nevada voters vote early. So that means we're going to mail in our ballot in our mailbox, drop it off at the post office. We can also drop it off at vote centers, which we also passed legislation to expand those. And so where I live, I can go to the YMCA, I can go to the athletic center, I can go to this community center. I have many, many options. Or if you don't want to vote by mail, you can also still vote in person in those same places. And so early voting is key. That's where we go to town on getting out the vote, and that's where people win their races. We've seen it time and time again. It's the person who can win early voting, who can hold on to Clark, either keep Washoe competitive or win it outright, and keep those rural counties in line. That's how we vote. I want people to realize, especially our Republican friends who often post a map of our red counties and show like the middle of our state being deep red. 85% of Nevada is owned by the feds, and there's not very many voters there. Our friends at Area 51 can't vote. But about 80% of the
they have to vote absentee, but it takes 12 light years to get here.
Yes, exactly. So, about 80% of the population lives here in Clark. Another 10 or 15 live in Washoe, and everyone else is spread out. And so, yes, Clark County is where the majority of the population is, but we cannot rest on just Clark County. We have to fight for every single vote in every single county. We have to listen to all these voters and make sure that it's not just Clark and Washoe who have great elections, but also protect people in Nye County and Elko County and in other counties where they do have kind of the fake elector-minded politicians who may not agree with vote by mail or ballot collection, and just making sure we're protecting all Nevadans' votes. And so early voting is going to be wild. There's some counties who are actually going to start receiving their ballots pretty soon here and be able to start voting maybe even in September. And so we're already ready to go. Like election day is already on our doorstep.
And Laura, is there a website or someplace where folks in Nevada can look and find their local voting center near them?
Yeah, you can. I say the best thing to go to is your county registrar. So the Clark County registrar, you can visit registernv.org. So registernevada.org is a nonpartisan website. They don't do electoral organizing. They just have how to vote information on the website. And of course, reach out to your elected officials, even if they're not running right now. They have that information. They want people engaged. If you can't find the county website or registernv.org, reach out to your elected official or reach out to groups like Plan. We have on planaction.org, we have a page for voter information to find, update your voter registration status, find your vote center, all of that great stuff.
That's right. And for the youth vote, Laura, if someone's going to be 18 on election day, can they pre-register?
Yeah, you can pre-register in Nevada. If you're 18 by election day, you can vote as well. And so if you're young, if you think, oh, I'm only 17, I can't register, you can pre-register. Also want to lift up all of the people who have become citizens in Nevada. We have a full service immigration office in Reno and have helped a lot of people become citizens and gotten them registered to vote. Once you're a U.S. citizen, you can register to vote and you can vote. There's no waiting period. So as long as you become a citizen before election day, you're also good to go and you can participate.
That's excellent news because we need more people voting, not fewer people voting. And so really incredible news coming out of Nevada, truly, because what I'm hearing is a very engaged electorate and people who believe in democracy, which is what I think the rest of America needs to see, because we can all follow in those footsteps and make sure that we're engaged all the way through election day. So Laura, honestly, this has been so incredibly informative. And my mom lived in Nevada, and I'm like, you gotta watch this. This was like the most informative thing ever. I'm hoping so many people watch this across the country, truly, because it's chock full of helpful information, and the work that you're doing on the ground is truly inspiring, not just for me, but I'm sure for many people watching. So thank you.
Yeah, and let me just say, Laura, let me echo Maya's thanks to you and your organization and all the folks you work with, and for the folks watching, this is what it's going to take, right? This town hall, the three of us, is a unique and diverse coalition, and it will take the deepest, broadest, most diverse coalition this country has ever seen to ensure that American democracy survives in 22 and 24 and beyond. We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to agree on one big thing. And that's why I cannot say thank you enough to Laura and Plan Action Nevada for all of their hard work and partnering with us. And really just everybody get the information you need. If you're not registered to vote, get out and vote. If you've got your ballot, vote it, get it back. That also helps the people targeting other voters. It makes their targeting more effective. That's why Republicans perfected it before Donald Trump blew it up for them. So just get on it, get voting.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect place to wrap for the evening. We're doing this every week. So in the meantime, please visit planaction.org. Visit us at lincolnproject.us. And of course, we need more people to join the union. So go to jointheunion.us, and we will see everyone next week.
Thank you all.